SportsCenter right now. I'm Antonieta Collins. By now, you all know that Odell Beckham Jr. is heading to Cleveland after 5 seasons with the Giants. GM Dave Gettleman continues to defend his decision to trade away OBJ by saying he's got a plan to build his team, and to do that, you need draft pick capital. The OBJ move gives New York 2 more draft picks, one of which is a first-rounder. Meanwhile, Odell had this to say on Instagram: "I want to thank the New York Giants organization for giving me an opportunity to do what God put me on this earth to do. I want to thank the organization and the owners for everything, and especially giving me my first chance to be a part of the NFL. I give you my all every Sunday. To the fans, some happy, some not, I just want to thank you guys for making my experience in New York something I'll never forget. The New Yorkers and real NYG fans, you guys will always have a place in my heart." Now, let's get you back to First Take.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to First Take, coming to you live from the Seaport District here at Pier 17 in NYC, brought to you by Chase. Louis Riddick here with us now. What's going on, Louis?
Talking some Giants. Max, I know you like this. Let's get to it.
He loves it.
I
Max
normally
is so
like
angry.
talking to the Giants. That's true.
I do like the tie. I do like the tie, Lou.
Stephen A., I appreciate that. I appreciate that, I like when you acknowledge that.
Yeah, all right. The rose gold is working. You guys, sometimes. All right, Giants GM Dave Gettleman says he has a plan, Max.
Yeah.
He's got a plan, a master plan. How do you feel about it?
The funniest thing to me about Gettleman, who really is comedy as a GM, is he gives it the, "Oh, shucks, I'm just this old school football. What do I know?" It's like Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer from SNL back in the day with Phil Hartman. "I'm just a caveman. What do I know? But I do know this," right? And so he convinces the jury because it's all, "Oh, shucks," and he's so simple, common sense and everything. Gettleman really thinks that people buy that he thinks that he's a dumb guy. No, Gettleman thinks he's a smart guy dressed up as a dumb guy to, fool everybody. But who's really being fooled? By what? I think he may want to reconsider the kind of role he's cast himself in, and then always reconsider his decisions. A plan? Wait, there's no way around this fact. Never, ever is a competent plan to hand a player $20 million cash in a bonus and then turn around and trade him and get a $16 million hit, dead cap hit against you the following year. Why would that ever be in your plan? Why? The idea that you're getting back a first-round draft pick, which is a low haul, a first, and a third, which is practically a fourth, and it's a mid-first rounder. The whole point of a first-round draft pick is that you can acquire an inexpensive impact player. But when you got to pay Odell almost $20 million to find out if Baker Mayfield can win a Super Bowl in his second season, that draft pick is coming at that expense, at a $20 million expense. It's not an inexpensive, really, piece when you think about it that way. Even when you think that if you include and expand the trade, because obviously when they traded for Zietler, when they traded Olivier Vernon for, even that, when you factor it all in, the Giants got fleeced, and everyone knows it. Don't try to pass this along like this has been some grand plan from the beginning. This is some fly by the seat of your pants, constantly changing the plan. Bad idea.
Mm-hmm. Max Kellerman, you are a Giants lover to the core. I appreciate your position. Having said all of that, I think you're entirely too emotional, and your ire is being aimed in the wrong direction. I am no fan of Dave Gettleman. I haven't been a fan of his since he let Josh Norman walk out the door from Carolina to the Redskins after getting to the Super Bowl with no backup plan that I could see. All right? I've been no fan of Gettleman ever since then because it's off the table. I didn't like that at all. Having said all of that, I don't believe that you sign Odell Beckham Jr. to a 5-year, $90 million contract with a $20 million signing bonus with $65 million guaranteed, and then you as the GM make a decision a year later. He's got to go. We can't win with him. I don't think that's the case at all. I think this is ownership, that being the New York Giants, led by Mr. Mara and those guys. them forcing Gettleman to make this decision. And they probably didn't have to work too hard to do it because he probably wanted the license to do it to begin with. Certainly, Coach Shermer appeared to want the license to do just that, considering the way he raved about Saquon Barkley and how this is the guy who's such a talent, a superstar. But what a fine, fine gentleman he is, as if to point out that Odell Beckham Jr. was anything but. I think that even though they didn't have to work so hard, I think this was a mandate from ownership because of the New York Giants way. And you know where my proof ultimately lies? Lewis, Max, Molly, it's not in them letting Odell Beckham Jr. go. It's in them keeping Eli Manning. Because had you let him go before March 17th, Eli Manning, if you let him go, you would have saved $17 million on the cap. You still said no. We're going to eat this. We're going to let them count $23 million against us, as opposed to freeing us up of $17 million. Why are we doing that? Because we love him. He's such a good guy. He's class personified, consummate professional, two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl MVP. What he has done for us, how he conducts himself, how first class he is, the Manning family being the first family of football. You know Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. In NFL history, nobody has made more money than them two. We understand Peyton Manning. But Eli Manning is number 2, according to the Forbes list that I read from months ago, in terms of pocketing in excess of $235 million. Now, you would think he's gotten enough. Oh, no, it's never enough when you're a Manning. And I love the Manning family, so I'm not knocking anybody. I just think it's important to understand, by keeping Eli Manning, they've made a clear case that your behavior, how you conduct yourself, and what we feel about you as a person matters to us arguably more than winning football games. That comes from the top. That's not Gettleman.
Yeah, you know what? I think they have, you know what? I'll say this about what Dave Gettleman said. Okay, I think he has a plan. I just think the plan now, it obviously has shifted. It's taken a 180. This plan that he has now, that I suspect that he has now, is maybe the plan that they should have enacted a year ago, because the plan that they enacted a year ago blew up because there were some miscalculations and some misevaluations, both in terms of the people they brought in and maybe what they had on the roster already. They thought that they could compete last year while continuing to supplement the roster and maybe, excuse me, maybe challenge for the NFC East title. That's what they thought. They thought we can get another year out of Eli. They made a decision to go ahead and draft Saquon to help Eli, to help take some pressure off of him. They made a decision to commit to Odell long term. They failed to nurture the relationship with Odell and develop that kind of rapport with Odell that would then become something where they would get everything out of him that they wanted, and he would be happy and he would be content with his role and his status there as a New York Giant. They failed to do that. The players that they brought in to help supplement Eli, other than Saquon Barkley, Nate Solder, didn't pan out. Well, hasn't panned out to the way that they want him to. Alec Ogletree didn't pan out. Patrick Omameh didn't pan out. Players, the defense overall didn't play up to expectations. The offensive line overall didn't play up to expectations. Now, they started playing a little bit better as the year went on offensively, but still not enough. Still not enough. Late last year, I'll bet this "we have a plan" was enacted, meaning the next plan for 2019, because they saw that it blew up. So now they're starting over from scratch. And what does that usually mean? That means sell off all of our most valuable assets, tear it all the way down to the base, all the way down to the foundation, and then build it back up. Because I'll tell you this, start with these 5 positions. Okay, these are my top 5 positions when you're talking about building a franchise. Do you have a quarterback? Do you have a pass rusher? Do you have a number 1 corner? Do you have a number 1 offensive tackle? Do you have a number 1 wide receiver? Going forward, do they have a quarterback going forward?
0 for 5.
No, I don't think so. Do they have a pass rusher? Don't think so. Do they have a number 1 corner they can count on? Don't think so. Do they have a number 1 wideout they can count on? Don't think so. They have a lot of work to do. And this is because the plan that they had in 2018 blew up. It's as simple as that. They mismanaged the relationship with Odell Beckham. It's as simple as that. That's why he's in Cleveland now. And now, as far as the quarterback situation is concerned, because they thought they could get a year or 2 out of Eli and then maybe draft his successor and put pieces around him, and they didn't do that, they've had to change course with the plan. He may have a plan. And look, I know Dave. I've scouted with Dave. I've been in stadiums with Dave. I've sat up in press boxes and scouted players with Dave. I know he knows football. but they mismanaged this situation. They mismanaged it with the number one player on their football team. They mismanaged it in terms of evaluating their own roster and the people that they brought in. And that happens. And usually what that leads to is you're held accountable.
But
And
Louis,
right now,
there's a difference
we'll
between.
see what happens.
Louis, there's a difference. I would not question Gettleman's knowledge of football, but there's a difference between knowing football and being a top executive. Those are different things.
That's what I'm saying, Max. He mismanaged this situation. That's
Right.
what I'm talking about. There's no question about that.
Even the way he lies to the media, where he even will sometimes say, "Oh, okay, you got me." He'll put the spotlight on a lie he told the media that no one even picked up on, and then he'll think he'll be slick with the media in a way that's completely transparent. And then he will, including we didn't sign Odell not to trade him. Well, then how come all those rumors are coming out of Cleveland? And why is Jarvis Landry tweeting eyeballs about Odell?
Yeah.
Listen to this from Warren Sharp Analytics, guys. Rebuilding with, this is the claim that they're rebuilding, a $23.2 million cap hit on a quarterback who, over the last 3 years with Odell, was 34th in yards per attempt, 31st in success rate, and 28th in passer rating. By the way, he was much worse without Odell. And this is while spending $21 million on dead cap on Odell over the next 2 years. Gettleman got the job, and then he did this. I know he inherited a mess from Jerry Reese, but this is what he's done with that mess. He's dug a deeper hole.
Well, he turned over 60% of the roster before last season, and look where that got him. So we understand what Lewis is saying when you talk about mismanagement. But I also, the reason why I point upstairs, guys, is because I remember what Dave Gettleman said years ago. I don't know if it was Ernie Accorsi or whomever he listened to, a former Giants executive, that advised him never give up on talent. Well, that's what Odell Beckham Jr. is. And for the most part, that's personified Dave Gettleman's career, at least to some degree. Again, Josh Norman being an exception. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at the New York Giants, when you've heard Mr. Myra complain in the past, what did you hear, Lewis? You didn't hear anything about Odell Beckham Jr.'s game. He said, "I am tired of talking about this young man. I am tired of talking about things as it pertains to his behavior." We have a standard here with the New York Giants, and we expect you to live up to it. It was their hesitancy in giving him the money. When he got the 5 years, $90 million, with the $65 million guarantee, with the $20 million signing bonus, the only thing that held that up was his perceived behavior. There was nothing on the field to deny him those dollars. They held it up because they needed to know whether or not they could trust him. And when he found himself in whatever situations you want to point to, they felt betrayed by him. So to me, this is not about Gettleman. This is about the Giants' culture and the people who dictate that culture.
You know what this is?
And clearly you're trying to change the
And
culture, and that was part of
we
getting
want
rid of
change.
Odell, and making Saquon the man. Guess what? They can redeem themselves Thursday, April 25th in Nashville. It's called the NFL Draft. Louis Riddick, thank you for being with us.
You bet. Thank you.
When we come back here on First Take, Klay Thompson apologizing for something he said. Stephen A. said not necessary. We will explain. Are the Steelers better off right now with Antonio Brown or Amari Cooper? The guys will answer that question later in the show.